When you think about government, you probably think about the President, Congress, and the Supreme Court in Washington, D.C. But what about the government in your own state capital? This government, your state government, actually has a much bigger impact on your day-to-day life, from the school you go to the roads you drive on. Its structure is based on the same model as the U.S. government, just on a statewide scale. So why do we even have state governments? It all comes down to an idea called federalism. Think of it like a big apartment building. The federal government is the building manager who sets the rules for the whole building, like fire safety or rent. But your state government is like your family. It sets the rules for inside your own apartment, like your chores, your curfew, or what's for dinner. Federalism is just this system of splitting the power between one big national government and the 50 smaller state governments. The rule that gives states this power is in the U.S. Constitution itself. The 10th Amendment is like a power clause for states. It basically says, hey, if the Constitution doesn't specifically give a power to the federal government, then that power belongs to the states or to the people. This is why your state gets to make its own rules about things like creating school curriculums, setting the speed limit on local highways, or issuing marriage and driver's licenses. Just like the United States has a master rule book, the Constitution, every single one of the 50 states has its own constitution too. This state constitution sets up the government for that state. It explains what the different branches are, what powers they have, and what rights citizens in that state are guaranteed. Interestingly, state constitutions are often way more detailed than the U.S. Constitution. Some are so long and specific, they even have rules about fishing or local taxes. If you understand the basics of the U.S. government, you'll understand state government. It's a mirror image. To prevent any one person or group from getting too powerful, power is divided into 3 branches. This is the famous separation of powers. You have the legislative branch to make the laws, the executive branch to enforce the laws, and the judicial branch to interpret the laws. All 3 are supposed to be co-equal partners, and they all check and balance each other. Let's start with branch 1, the legislative branch. These are the lawmakers. This group of people who you elect is responsible for writing and passing state laws. Think of any state-level rule. The law that says you need 20 credits to graduate high school, the law that sets the state's minimum wage, or the law that makes texting while driving illegal. All of those started in the state legislature. They also have one of the biggest jobs of all, deciding the state's budget, which is the plan for how to spend all the state's money. In 49 out of the 50 states, the legislature is bicameral. This is a fancy word that's easy to break down. Bi means 2, and cameral means chamber or house. So a bicameral legislature is just a legislature with 2 houses. Just like the U.S. Congress has the Senate and the House of Representatives, your state has a state Senate and a state House of Representatives. For any idea to become a law, it has to be approved and pass a vote in both of those houses. And now for the ultimate civics trivia question. Which state is the only one that's different? That's Nebraska. Nebraska is unicameral, uni meaning 1. They decided that having 2 houses to debate everything was inefficient, so they have just 1 legislative body. This makes Nebraska unique in the entire country. Everyone else follows the 2-house model. The people in your state legislature aren't strangers in a faraway capital. They are supposed to be your neighbors. Your state is divided into dozens of small areas called districts. You and the people who live near you get to vote for 1 person to be your state representative and 1 person to be your state senator. This makes them directly accountable to you. If they vote for a law you hate, you and your neighbors can vote them out in the next election. So how does an idea become a law? It's a long process. Let's say you have an idea. There should be a state law that all schools must serve pizza on Fridays. You'd tell your local legislator. They would write it up as a bill. That bill then goes to a small committee, like a club of legislators who are experts on education, to debate it. If they approve it, it goes to the full House and Senate for a vote. If it passes both, it lands on the governor's desk. It's a long journey designed to make sure a law is carefully considered. Now for branch 2, the executive branch. Passing a law is great, but who actually does the work? If the legislature passes a law to build a new bridge, who hires the engineers and construction crews? That's the executive branch. Their job is to execute or enforce the laws. This is the biggest part of state government, made up of all the state agencies, like the Department of Motor Vehicles, DMV, the Department of Education, and the state police. The leader of this entire branch is the governor. The governor is the chief executive of the state. Think of them as the state's president or CEO. They are elected by all the voters in the entire state. The governor is the one you see on TV after a natural disaster, the one who gives the big State of the State speech, and the one who is ultimately in charge of making sure the state government is running. The governor has some major powers. The most famous one is the ability to veto laws. If the legislature passes a bill the governor thinks is a bad idea, they can stamp it rejected and send it back. They also get to propose the state's budget, which is a huge power because it sets the priorities for the whole state. And just like the president, the governor is the commander-in-chief of the state's own military force, the National Guard, which they can call on during emergencies like a flood or an earthquake. Here's one of the coolest and most important differences between a governor and the US president. Most governors have a power called the line item veto. Imagine the legislature sends the governor a 500-page budget bill. In that bill, there's one line, just one, that says $5 million for a new statue. The president would have to sign the whole 500-page bill or veto the whole thing. But a governor with a line item veto can just take a pen, cross out that one line, and then sign the rest of the bill into law. It's a very precise power. The governor doesn't work alone. Think of it as a team. There's a lieutenant governor who is like the vice president. They're first in line if the governor can't serve. Then there's the attorney general, who is the state's top lawyer. If the state sues a company or gets sued, the attorney general handles it. And you have the secretary of state, who is in charge of one of the most important jobs of all, running the state's elections fairly and securely. Finally, we have branch 3, the judicial branch. This is the state court system. So, the legislature writes the law, like the speed limit is 65. The executive enforces the law. A state trooper pulls you over for going 80. But what if you disagree? What if you say the law is unfair or the trooper is wrong? You go to the judicial branch. Their job is to interpret the law and be the referee in disputes. The state court system is built like a pyramid. At the bottom, you have the trial courts. This is the classic courtroom you see on TV, with a judge, a jury, and witnesses. This is where cases start. If you lose your case and think the judge made a legal mistake, you can appeal to the next level, the appellate courts. These judges just review what happened at the trial. And at the very top is the state Supreme Court, which is the final, ultimate decider for all issues related to state law. This is one of the biggest differences between state and federal governments. Federal judges, including Supreme Court justices, are appointed by the president and serve for life. But in most states, judges are not for life. In many states, citizens actually vote for their judges, just like they vote for a governor or a senator. In other states, judges are appointed, but only for a specific number of years, like a 6-year or 10-year term. This is designed to make state judges more accountable to the people. You might not realize it, but you interact with your state government all the time. That building you dread going to for your driver's permit? The DMV or BMV is a state agency. The public school you go to is run by your local district, but it has to follow rules and curriculum standards set by the state's Department of Education. The state troopers on the highway, the state parks you go camping in, the big construction projects on the interstate. That is all your state government at work. So let's review. Just like the U.S. government, your state government is built on the 3-branch system. The legislative branch, your state Senate and House, makes the laws. The executive branch, led by your governor, enforces the laws. And the judicial branch, your state court system, interprets the laws. It's a complete system designed to handle the problems and provide the services that are closest to your home.